Welcome back to UKSG Green 2025. We're raising money for Crisis. Up next, we've got the first TAS tool-assisted speedrun of the event. We have CDRomatron and TASbot together. Everyone, give it up for Spyro Fusion, the TAS, 120 cards.
Welcome one and all to the TAS showcase of Spyro Fusion. This has been a project I've been working on over the last few weeks, and I can't wait to showcase it with you. We've got plenty of time to talk about it though, so we will start the timer shortly. It will just be when the console powers on, so in 3, 2, 1... So the story of what 120 cards is surprisingly interesting. Unfortunately, I have inadvertently got all of you guys into a history of what Spyro Fusion is as a speed game, as well as the history of speedrun categories, and kind of the history of speedrunning as a whole, which is kind of surprising for this minigame collection on the Game Boy Advance. The first thing we did was we entered 4 passwords. The reason for that is to acquire all 120 cards. Passwords are required due to the fact that 2 of those cards are locked behind passwords. Because of that, passwords are allowed. Because passwords are allowed, we use a further 2 to gain a starting 300 gems. Now, what is Spyro Fusion? Spyro Fusion is a minigame collection for the Game Boy Advance as part of a crossover with Crash Bandicoot, where the idea is that they've both been pit against each other, and then they have to work together to defeat their combined nemesis. In the context of a speedrun, that involves entering portals. Portals are minigames. You beat 5 minigames, you fight a boss. You fight a boss, you move on to the next world, so on and so forth. There is currency to manage. Traditionally in speedruns, you get 2 categories. You've got your any percent, which is beat the game, no restrictions, just get to the end. And then you've got your 100%, or whatever your game's equivalent of 100% is. This game got a bit more awkward. Due to the original reception around this game, it was seen a lot of in races during the SRC days, where people would blindly race this game along with various other games, and try to get the fastest times possible back on Speedruns Live. They found a problem with this game where to complete a world and enter the boss, you only need to defeat every minigame once. Then all of a sudden, when you get to the end of the 4th world, it tells you, actually, no, you need to go back and do every single minigame 2 more times. So from that spun off a new category just called Beat Cortex, which was the 4th boss, which is where everyone who did races back in the day just gave up, because no one wanted to go back and do the game 2 more times. So that broke into the 3 categories: Beat Cortex, any percent, and 113%. 113% was doing absolutely everything in the game. Turning this over to where my history with the game started, I was the first person to attempt the completion run of this game, and by extension, the completion run of Crash Fusion, known in the States as Crash Purple and Spyro Orange, respectively. The reason why a run of one is a run of both is because it's similar to Pokemon in that you cannot fully complete the game without trading. So in order to do a full completion run of either game, you must also do a almost full completion run of the other game, and then link them at the end. Traditionally what that meant was that a runner would do a run of both games and you'd submit to both leaderboards, because they were effectively the same category. Over time, however, between several members of the Elite Fusion crew, a special thanks to Tokaluni, who was the person who discovered a lot of the major tech in this game, we found a few shortcuts in Spyro Fusion. Primarily this started off with the menu warp and the light menu warp. The purpose of those strategies is to allow Spyro to kind of teleport throughout the hub world, which is quite useful for when we are doing sub-hub movement. With a few further discoveries made over time. We'll address those a bit more as we come up to them. So that's the general history around the run of this game. It was often done as a full completion run. As you can see here, we are just doing everything as quickly as possible. The first few levels are auto-scrollers. Coming into our first bridge minigame here, where we throw Molotov cocktails at Rhinox. There we go, poor guy. We're avoiding flaming in the overworld as much as possible. We will need to do it when it's necessary. However, it does introduce lag, so we'll be trying to avoid that every chance we can. Being 120 cards, the goal of this category is to obtain all 120 trading cards. Why 120? That is because that is the number that you can get the most amount of cards you can obtain in a single cartridge without trading. So this is, in effect, a max percent for one cartridge. We found later that there was a limbo, what we would call the equivalent of our barrier skip, where we found a glitch that was the death of the Beat Cortex run, where we found a way to enter the 5th world without completing every minigame 3 times. That made a division leaderboard of, to do a full completion of Spyro Fusion to get the maximum percent, you would still need to beat every minigame 3 times. However, to do a full completion of Crash Fusion, you wouldn't need to fully complete Spyro Fusion anymore. That went into the routing of creating 120 cards, as 120 cards was seen as the Spyro equivalent of the Crash 105% run. Over time, this has become arguably the most interesting category in the whole game, especially due to the card and money routing, as the gem routing in this game is extremely tight. A lot of what we're doing in the overworld is collecting high-value gems. High-value gems have a specific purpose, that once you collect all the non-1 gems in a world, you will obtain a special trading card. So we're entering the spinning wheel shops. We're just going to win these every single time. And unfortunately, there's no way to make that platform, so we've got to wait for one cycle. Coming up to our first breakout-style minigame here, these are the most fun to optimize, given a special technique known as the frame-perfect hyperboost. If you use the magnet and the kick ability at the same time, the ball will move at ridiculous speeds and often disobey physics. We can use that to complete some of these levels comically fast, although it's not always the fastest way to beat the minigames. Here we're performing a menu warp. We can do that by going back into the main menu and reverting all the way back to the file select screen, which places Spyro back in the furthest left of the hub world. There goes our first boss, Crash Bandicoot. He has decided that we're no longer an enemy. And we return back to the first world because we have some unfinished business. Spyro gains a few upgrades throughout this run. After the first world, he obtains double jump, and after the second world, he obtains a hover. We are entering this portal here as a checkpoint for us to come back to. Performing a light menu warp here just to teleport back to that portal. And now that we've got the double jump, we have a few more areas we can access. So from here, we're just going through collecting all the high-value gems. Of course, they are required as we need those to collect additional trading cards. You'll see a pop-up for a single frame here, pretty much, as we collect this last card. Sorry, the last one. Last gem. As we re-enter the first half, which has its own unique gem, down jousting through all the spikes. And cleaning up the last few things here. So a big part of the routing for this was thinking, can we do this later? The answer ended up unfortunately being no, as we do need to revisit the first world regardless at the end of the game. However, the gem routing ends up being so tight in this game that we do truly need every gem. Here we're performing a flame extended double jump. We purposely induce some lag frames that allow us to be able to perform a very high double jump, which just allows you to make that platform. And here is our first limbo warp. This was the biggest discovery that has ever been made in the game. The idea of the limbo warp, we'll explain that when we get to our next auto-scroller, who's coming up shortly. But for all intents and purposes, the limbo warp lets us teleport wherever we feel like. Coming into another one of these breakout-style levels, these were easily the most fun to do. You can just see we're slowly melting the number of enemies. I've got to be careful whenever performing the frame perfect hyper boost, due to the fact that it doesn't always have collision with Spyro. Sometimes, if you boosted the ball away, it can just go through you next time it comes back to you. Picking up a few of these gems here, the idea is you're meant to body slam and then fall through to collect them. However, we want to continue along this path, so we're using our double jump to stay out of the platform. So, an introduction to the limbo warp is a needlessly complicated glitch where the game has two modes, a story mode, which you're seeing the playthrough of just now, and a minigame mode, where you can go back and replay the minigames that you have encountered in the story mode. It's got a major bug where if you press A at the same time as you swap between tabs for the worlds, as each world's in a different tab, you can enter the overworld as a minigame, which the game doesn't like, and it saves your location within a world. What I mean is that if you enter the level marked as level 1, it will save you as having entered level 1 most recently. Same if you entered level 2, same if you entered the first shop, same if you entered the boss portal. It will remember the last thing you did. It will, however, not remember the world you were in. So the purpose of this is to change the level position of Spyro within the world saved in the save file. The example of what we did at the beginning there is Spyro was in World 1 in the save file. We did a limbo warp with Spyro's position to the boss portal, and then reloaded the save file, which put Spyro at the boss portal of World 1. Going about here, that was a weird platform. It looked like I didn't need to do a flame extended double jump over that. The platform just doesn't have any physical interaction. As you can see, we're going through refreshing the shop to get as many of the cards as possible. I believe there is 10 cards to buy there. You're shown a random 3. You're not shown a random 3 that you don't already have, so there's a good chance every time you enter the shop that you will see cards you already own. Hence us needing to revisit the shop many, many, many times. Unfortunately, this game hasn't gathered the greatest reputation of all time. It is indeed a minigame collection, and it is chock full of auto-scrollers. However, everything outside the auto-scrollers has ended up being extremely interesting. And as such, a few of us have been willing to put up with it. This game does end up being quite fun as a speedrun, and I would highly recommend it to people looking to get into some more silly Spyro runs. It's definitely a great place to start, and is surprisingly beginner friendly as well, as none of the tricks are typically hard aside from the flame extended double jump. Going through our first one of these magnet levels here, but for the most part we are just going to be destroying each enemy as we come across. There is no immediate optimization in a lot of these, so I will pass it over to the host if there's anything to read at this time.
Thank you very much. Whoops. Sorry. Yeah, thank you very much. We are collecting money for Crisis, a charity supporting people out of homelessness for good. They achieve this through education, training, and support with housing, employment, and health. 90% of your donations will go towards supporting Crisis, 10 towards UKSG's future events. What I would like to say is, as someone who has made a tiny TAS, which took a lot of time, I cannot imagine how much time and effort it takes to make a 1-hour TAS. So another round of applause, please, for this amazing effort.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, a good number of months did go into this. I've got some thanks, but I will save them to the end. There is a few people who are able to help me out with this, especially more of the technical side of getting the synchronizing to work. But yeah, it's been a pleasure working with the TAS community, as it always is. To be able to bring something like this to fruition, it often comes from... for me, these things come from a sense of learning. I always see things and I want to try them. This is one of the first ones I put together by myself. I've been really happy with the progress, and I really like to show things off at times like this, to show that they can be accessible, they can be done. That there are very much opportunities for learning when it comes to these types of things. This is far from a perfect TAS. This is what some may call a bit closer to a low TAD, a low optimized tool-assisted demonstration, where there are definitely things I would like to work on for the next iteration of this. However, given my progress in this, I'm really happy with how this has turned out so far. As definitely a good first attempt. This level has a very silly bug. For some reason, that wall just doesn't have a collision. You've always got to show that off in a marathon run. A lot of these levels are unfortunately quite boring. We can't do anything too interesting during these. A few things in some of the auto-scrollers does do things that like the advancing the RNG. This level, absolutely nothing you do is affecting it. So we are just waiting to get through to the end of the level here. Part of the interest of this Spyro Fusion has been to a small community of dedicated individuals who we've been trying to learn everything we can about this game. Especially thanks to some of the members of the Pokemon community who were helping us initially with understanding how the RNG worked in this game, and allowed us to start making a few of our initial optimizations in terms of what we were doing when. This one is already a fun level. Any of the ones that involve button mashing never seem to last too long. Coming into the last shop of World 2 here. Just got a few more cards to pick up. So, from all the cards we need to collect, there is 120 across the game. Now, I'd mentioned at the start of the run that there was initially a requirement to beat every minigame 3 times. There is a card that you get for beating a minigame on the 3rd try. The reason we don't need them is that all of those cards are also for sale in shops. So it's very rare that we need to do the 3rd attempt of a minigame. Coming up to the second boss here, which is both Crush and Gulp from Spyro 2. I've got to be really careful here. You'll see Spyro hopping occasionally. One of the things that can advance the RNG is Spyro's idle animation. So I'm purposely not triggering the idle animation here, even though I need to just effectively stand still. Lining Crush up for every hit possible at the earliest opportunities, going 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 1, I believe. Here he swaps forms, puts the shield on his head. And there we go. Out of Crush and Gulp, we enter the 3rd hub. We see our first glimpse of Nina. Nina was not intended to have her debut in this game. She was meant to debut in Twinsanity. However, the devs didn't get the memo and included her in this story. So the keen-eyed among you will have noticed that we did not pick up every large gem in the previous hub. There was a small mishap when they were developing this game, and they put the reward for the second hub world being the second half, second world being complete, as also being available in the next shop. So instead of needing to venture around and pick up every gem for a few minutes, we can instead spend a matter of frames in a shop, which allows us to save a significant amount of time. Of course, this is the part where the gem count and the gem routing is extremely important. Everything is becoming slowly more expensive as we go through the game. It started off in the first world with cards just costing 10 gems, as well as minigames only costing 10 gems. However, by this point in the game, a minigame costs 30 gems to unlock. We're only getting 10 for completing it, and cards are costing between 30 to 40 gems, meaning our gem count is going to be very, very tight for these next few shops. This is less of a problem in the Crash Fusion equivalent of this run, because in Crash Fusion the maximum wump count is 9,999. However, in Spyro they maxed it at 3 digits instead of 4. As I mentioned earlier, we now have access to the hover after beating World 2. Since we have access to the hover, Spyro can effectively fly, which is really nice. Entering the shop only to leave it there, as we can't afford every card in it just yet. However, we are going to use it as a checkpoint to respawn at after picking up a few more gems throughout the hub world. There are a few additional minigames that we don't need to do. They're often optional and will only serve as additional gem rewards. Many of them are quite slow though, so we are avoiding them as much as we can. So we're entering the shop with 391 gems, with about 9 cards to buy. And you'll see we're already down to 41, which is only just enough to enter this next minigame, Ring of Fire, for more frame-perfect hyper-boosting shenanigans. A few of these layouts are always quite awkward. There's never a great way to get it when there's 5 at the back. Here we can see the rapidly mashing the A button results in a rather amusing hovering animation. Now, every world in this game is broken up into the same structure of being broken into 2 halves with a intermission minigame between. You saw that in the first world with the minigame where you are cranking the gate. You'll notice that we haven't done one since then. The limbo warping does allow us to avoid those. So we're avoiding them at any time possible. Coming up here to our second shop of World 3. This is our first mystery shop. It's kind of like a vase shuffle, except you don't see them shuffle and you've just got to guess. These were the worst thing before RNG manipulation was found. You would lose tens of minutes in these shops. Now you'll notice a lot of the time we're actually not getting cards here, we're getting gems. This is on purpose, as often you can get more gems than you've spent on the shop. Meaning we can gain effectively infinite profit at the cost of time. In realistic sense, there's only 4 cards we need here. However, we need so many gems for the next few worlds that we're using this time to grind up to the maximum gem count. Unfortunately, this kind of section is always quite tedious, as there's a lot to do. We've been finding various RTA methods of RNG manipulation. Conveniently, the RNG only advances when something random happens in the game, and it always starts from a set value, meaning that as long as we always perform the same inputs from a power on or a soft reset, we can always have the same output. So we have RNG manipulations that are available for all of these shops that do allow us to do these in real-time runs. Another one of these mashing minigames. The AI unfortunately never stood a chance. But you can only pull it so fast. This is a rare instance where we're going to be doing a minigame 3 times as well. The trade-off for this is that on the second completion of a minigame we get 20 gems, and the third completion of a minigame we get a further 30 gems. So this is an additional 50 gem profit, as well as saving us the money from having to buy one of these trading cards in the next world shop. So collecting the last of the gems here, finishing off the 4th world, is Hot Wings, the last of the auto-scrollers in this hub. Conveniently, it's right beside where the boss portal is, so we're able to use the Limbo Warp to warp back to the boss portal and go straight towards it. This is another long auto-scroller, so I will pass it over to the host at this time. If there's anything you'd like to read, yeah, you're welcome to go ahead.
I missed it for a second. All right, thank you very much. Don't forget, if you have Twitch Prime, you can get a free subscription to a channel. So if you have Amazon Prime connected to your Twitch, and then you get a Twitch Prime free subscription. If you like to support the channel and the event, go ahead and use your sub here. Also, if you want to support future UKSG events, remember that revenue from cheers, subs, and ad revenue is going towards UKSG. So we welcome all your contributions, and just watching the ads will help UKSG become bigger and better.
I'm extremely thankful for getting to showcase this TAS showcase here, especially to have the one and only TAS spot as well, helping with the run. It's a great privilege to be able to show this hard work off. So from here we'll be approaching the end of the auto-scroller. We're going to be performing another Limbo Warp to get back up to the boss portal, as it would normally be a long platforming section. Entering third boss here, this is Nina. Nina is not a difficult boss, however one that was quite hard to optimize. I think there is still definitely some room for improvement in this. The idea being that you bait her into attacking the boxes, and then slowly we need to raise the roof spikes. We only need to raise the roof so high as Spyro can damage beast through it. And just about connect with the portal. Entering Fire Mountains here, so this is, entering Wampa Jungle. This is the first minigame. So the general theme you see amongst the auto-scrollers is if it's one of these 2D style auto-scrollers, defeating enemies and doing anything which involves firing your projectile does advance the RNG. So I'm going to be very careful whenever going through a level like this, where any small input I do that involves defeating an enemy is going to either advance or not advance the RNG. Of course, I could advance it as far as I want ahead, but of course, if I want to move it less far ahead, I need to be conscious of damaging through the various enemies. We're coming up on the second to last world here. As you can see by the timer, there is still plenty of time and plenty of things to do. So this is very much the halfway point of the run. I do not remember the part where Spyro drives in a rocket buggy. That might have happened in Enter the Dragonfly, I'm not sure.
And I don't remember where he pilots a mech that fires rockets.
Yeah, it's all quite confusing. Coming into the next shop here, this was a lot of the reason behind our gem grinding. There's a lot of very expensive cards we need here. The price has gone up to 40 and 60. spending almost half of our gems there. And entering Treetop Flight. This was a pretty fun world to work on. There's a number of fun things that kind of happens in the Wumpa Jungle world. We'll speak about the interesting application of Limbo that we see later on. However, for now, this level is interestingly structured, where there isn't a nice, clean path to go through and collect everything all at once. So we have a number of backtracking that's done throughout this world. We'll be seeing a few instances of that just after this level. Unfortunately, these auto-scrollers do make this game a bit of a hard selling point. However, this is a very fun run, and I would encourage people to at least give it a try. Even if it's not for them, it's great to have formed your own opinion on this game. There's definitely a lot to find with the Game Boy Spyro games. They're often written off as not quite as good as the original trilogy. However, Spyro 2 and 3 on the Game Boy Advance are very fun. They have great speedruns which are quite well optimized and are very entertaining to see done. As well as the second Legend of Spyro game on the Game Boy Advance has a very exciting run as well. This is mainly quite interesting, but more interesting from a technical perspective than from the gameplay perspective, as the routing for this game is still ongoing, and there is plenty to consider. We are slowly learning about how the RNG influences the shops, how that all interacts together. We've learned how the RNG advances in this game. Now, we're still in the process of reverse engineering exactly how the RNG affects what's in the shop for being able to predict that. However, this is of course an ongoing project. Another one of these bridge minigames. Just need to line up the two there. As we limbo warp. This is a very particular limbo warp here. It turns out whilst you're in limbo, that you can collect gems in the limbo world, and that affects the gem pickup state in your save file. Meaning there's very few gems that we actually need to pick up here in the second half of World 4. Picking up another 4 gems here. Another 4 cards. I haven't explained one of this game's major game mechanics, which is the wheel shops and how the stack works. So the stack is a semi-perfect way of stopping you getting duplicates from shops. Imagine if you had a deck of playing cards. You have the 4 suits, and we arrange the 4 suits into each individual deck. You had a deck of hearts, a deck of spades, a deck of clubs, and a deck of diamonds. The idea being that the game randomly chooses one of the decks and deals you a random card from it that you don't already own. So if it decided that you're getting a spade, you'll get spade, ace through king. The reason it's not perfect is because, one, when a stack is emptied, as in you've obtained every card from the stack, you can still roll that stack as one of the 4 stacks, and it will just give you a random card from that stack. So for the most part, you're not getting duplicates. However, a lot of the time you can tell, as many of the cards are shown differently. Like there's blue crash cards, there's orange crash cards, there's blue Spyro cards. The reason it ends up becoming confusing in the shops, especially more in Crash Fusion than Spyro Fusion, is because you can have multiple decks of the same suit, multiple stacks of the same suit, so they all look effectively the same, and you don't know which of these stacks you're going to end up rolling. Which has led to the notorious Scuba Crash, where there is a shop in Crash Fusion where there is, I believe, 6 orange crash cards in one stack, and a single orange crash card in the other stack. So you have a 50% chance every time you roll an orange crash card for it to be Scuba Crash, which is very funny. It's one of the most detailed things in this entire game, and it's crazy that we only use it for 8 cards, which lasts a total of about 5 seconds.
Every second counts.
Indeed. Wrapping up the last part of the second half of World 4 here. We will be coming back here shortly. We are just finishing off the last few levels, our last one of these breakout levels for World 4. There may be times when you see a part of this level and think, it would be really quick to do a frame-perfect hyper boost there. A lot of the times your answer is probably yes, but oftentimes the game will just not put the input through and will not allow the hyper boost to go through. A tiny optimization on this auto-scroller here to make it less of an auto-scroller. You can land the first hit before Cortex Shield is functionally active. It did appear there, however, it wasn't actually active until after we shot the missile, meaning we can defeat Cortex in one last cycle here. This is, of course, where all of those infamous runs finished, where people would play this game, they would get to Cortex, and then they would realize that they couldn't beat the game after that. So performing a soft reset here, mainly because our RTA strategy for this is very well a very optimized way of doing things already. So going through various limbos here to enter the end of Hub 5, entering the shop, and we are going to play the Vase Shuffle game for 5 Spyro cards. We're also, if we don't need the card, we will be picking up gems. Flaming is one of the quickest things we can do to advance the randomness. So that was why we did a few flames before entering the shop, as well as after leaving the shop and re-entering it, to move us along so we didn't need to do some needless phase shuffling. Running about here, we're in Tech Deflect, which is the final one of these levels. World 5 is very unique in this run, where we need to beat each minigame 3 times, as the game would have expected us to, for the whole rest of the game. The reason for that is every minigame's third completion card reward has been available in the next world shop. However, given this is the last world, there is no further shop to get these cards from. Every time you beat one of these minigames, it gets more difficult. In the context of this minigame, it gets faster. So you'll see physics slowly start to fall apart as we go through this minigame multiple times. You see there, the ball moves so fast on hard difficulty that if you're not perfect with your lineup, it will go through Spyro and Spyro will die. Of course, we'll need one ball to stay alive, and it doesn't matter if we die after the minigame's completed. A light mini warp to get us back to the start of the hub. This hub is only in 1 half as opposed to every other hub, which is in 2 halves. Entering Tech Tug. This minigame is just mashing A. There is not much to this minigame. The AI did not ever stand a chance. So normally you don't see the third interaction of these minigames in a lot of categories. Any percent just plays through them once, as that's the only thing required to unlock the final boss portal. The sole reason we're doing this is for the card rewards. This also came for where the difference between 120 cards and the maximum percentage was born. As it was, since we found that you could obtain all the cards in the game without achieving the maximum percentage, For future Crash 105% runs, you wouldn't need to do a full completion of Spyro anymore, meaning that you could just collect the 120 cards and that be it. This run is seen as that half. So this is one of these optional minigames which we mentioned earlier. The main objective of these is to increase your gem count. This is the fastest way to earn gems in the game. It costs 100 to enter, but you get 200 as a reward. This minigame takes about 15 seconds, and we can do that to gain 100 gems each time. And we still have plenty of cards left to buy. I believe we do this up until about 600 gems, so if there's anything you'd like to read in the meantime, you're welcome to go ahead.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly talk a bit about Crisis and the skylights that they operate. So Crisis operates 9 skylights in Birmingham, Brent, Croydon, Edinburgh, London, Merseyside, Newcastle, Oxford and South Wales. And at the skylights they provide practical one-to-one support to prevent and end homelessness by taking a housing-led approach, supporting access to benefits, healthcare services and employment opportunities. The main aim is to relieve a huge pressure of homelessness by helping people find safe and affordable homes as quickly as possible. Anyone who contacts our services gets a response from the engagement and assessment team based at the relevant skylight. If crisis is placed to help, the member will be allocated a crisis lead worker who they'll have a consistent relationship with and who will support the member out of homelessness for good. We also work with landlords to secure a supply of affordable homes for our members. Quick reminder, there are 2 bid incentives going. Currently, kill or spare the creature for redo, which are on very close to each other with 25 and 21 pounds. 25, kill the creature in the lead, and listen to the Pirate I Was Meant to Be song for Curse of Monkey Island. Get those donations in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're definitely coming up to the tail end of this run now. This is the second to last minigame of the main story mode of the game. It's yet another one of these auto-scrollers where Spyro's in a spaceship shooting stuff down. It's very frustrating casually, mainly because the game throws a lot of blind corners at you, so you just kind of need to know where to go. If you aren't already moving left, you will get caught on the screen. This game's idea of difficulty is quite twisted, where all it does for future difficulties of a level like this is increase the health of all the enemies by 1, which wouldn't be so much of a problem had they not given all the enemies iframes, meaning that you can easily put 4 bullets into an enemy and only to kill it, even if it only had 2 health to begin with. Into our second entrance of Space Shoot. So, as we're coming up to these last levels here, I'll start to go through some of the thanks. People who've helped with this asked there's a few things I'll need to be explaining near the end. So mainly thanks to Alyosha, who was the member of the TAS videos community who helped me synchronize this on hardware. I was having tons of issues with getting the save RAM to initialize correctly, and they were able to help with that process, which made this whole thing possible. From the TAS videos side as well, just a huge thank you to the TAS videos Discord and their whole community. They have been hugely helpful in developing these tools that have been able to do things like this, as well as supporting people wanting to learn.
Can confirm these guys are awesome. They're super helpful with helping creating tests and troubleshooting problems.
As for the Spyro side, of course, special thanks to Toka, Seven and Razor, Pete the Player, just everyone in the Elite Fusion crew, as well as the support we've gotten as well through the Spyro Discord. We finally have our own channel, which gets like 1 post in every 3 months when a new discovery is made. So into our last entry here, you'll see enemies just are not dying, regardless of how many times we shoot them. They only have 3 health, but functionally it ends up being more like 4 or 5. These levels aren't too bad. The main difficulty spike in this game is the final level, which we're going to be coming up to in a moment, called Spacewalker, or Skywalker, sorry. All the optimizations for levels like this, though, are just making sure that we enter the ending portal at the first possible frame. Luckily, these ones are never too long. In future iterations, I'd love to be able to do a bit more of an entertaining movement around here. I think there's definitely some room for being able to showcase some comedic movement without losing any time. Our last overworld trading card there. And into Skywalker. Skywalker is very much the difficulty spike of the game. There are several variants, one for each difficulty, none of which are particularly easy. All of these minigames have different layouts of the enemies, which can really mess with your muscle memory. In addition to that, some of which are just not possible hitless, and can force you to take damage at various times. So the concept of these levels are pretty simple. You have limited ammo, you need to slowly pick up the ammo as we go. Unfortunately, there's a lot of blind jumps. So you need to be very keen-eyed in watching for when the screen scrolls to know what's upcoming. You can do a bit of some swag movement off here as well. You can walk off the platform and then invert the gravity. It's very silly to get near the kill plane there. Of course, I've not explained the health in this game. Spyro has the health bar as represented by sparks in the top corner. Spyro can take a total of 4 hits. Gold is full health. Takes a damage to go down to blue, takes a damage to go down to green, and takes a further damage to lose sparks completely. Health is reset between levels. I've also got to be conscious of deaths in the overworld as well. Of course, not in a TAS setting, however in RTA, that is a thing to keep an eye out for. It's every death that you have will cost 10 gems. Meaning, although you don't have a limited life count, it can hugely mess with your gem routing. And there's a lot of quite mean jumps. A lot of these games were quite mean in their design, presumably not thoroughly tested to make sure that they're very player-friendly. There's the infamous jump in Spyro Fusion, which is a 2-frame window for a jump that the game expects you to make, which makes 105% a consistent nightmare. Luckily, there's nothing like that too bad in this game. And, of course, Spyro can take far more hits than Crash Bandicoot can. This is one of these somewhat impossible sections. I will have enemies spawning behind me. And, of course, you cannot fire behind you. And there were no platforms to move to. You can get lucky with these spawns there, and it can be done hitless. However, it's not necessarily down to player skill. And of course, I can't stress the difficulty of some of this as well, although, of course, this TAS is making this look very easy. This minigame is surprisingly difficult and can take quite a while to learn. In addition to taking quite a while to learn, taking quite a while to unlearn your muscle memory, as the enemy and electric fence placements are different every time you enter the level for each of the 3 difficulties. into our final visit here. It's a shame we don't get more opportunities to play as the Magnet Mech. We only see it twice, once in the final world and once in the second world. There's some pretty interesting movement that we've been able to find to be able to do with this. Of course, nothing in terms of being able to speed it up, given that it's an auto-scroller. However, just some interesting interactions you're able to have with the inverted gravity. So after this level here, we'll be coming up to a little bit of Gauntlet, so plenty of minigames to talk through, so if there's anything you'd like to read, this would be a good time.
Absolutely. Let me talk a bit about price points at Crisis. So these are the individual contributions that individual amounts of donations will give. So £8 could provide someone with period products, including pads and underwear, something that someone facing homelessness might not be able to afford. £10 could go towards someone's travel costs, making attending a flat viewing or job interview possible and helping them start their journey out of homelessness. £20 could go towards gas or electricity costs for someone setting up the new home or struggling to make their bills. £30 could go give someone an hour of one-to-one support and coaching with one of our lead workers, helping them develop skills, secure, find and maintain a home or a job. £45 could go towards 3 phone calls with a translator to support people whose first language is not English and help them overcome that additional barrier to leaving homelessness behind. And £100 could go towards helping someone find their way back into employment from training through finding and securing a job. There is about 10 minutes left of TAS, so let's get those donations in.
All right, thank you, thank you. That is the final boss done. Oh, why did that boot into Crash Party? We've had a desync! This is a little unfortunate. Apologies about this. I will need to go to the backup video for the last few minutes, if that's all right. Naturally, the one thing I feared would happen happened. Yeah, we'll be right back. Alright, that's us back. We've got the backup video. So the game should have soft reset like this. Let's pretend like it did.
It definitely did.
So after soft resetting, we soft resets as soon as the credits happen. The purpose for that is that soft resetting will completely skip the credits and allows us to immediately move on to the post-game. We're initially doing some limbo warping here to set up the shop in the 5th world. So we haven't gone anywhere near enough cards from it yet. So we're doing a bit of an RTA setup here of flaming 17 times to advance the RNG, such as the shop will have the cards we're looking for. This contains the final, I believe, 7 or so cards. Of course, after this, there is nothing left in the run that requires gems. So we're just going through and spending the last of our gem counts. If we are picking up gems, it's usually because either A, we already own the card that is being presented, or B, we just need a little bit more currency to get us over the line. Yeah, it's been great to be able to showcase this. I appreciate this is quite a different TAS than how TAS has been portrayed recently, with a lot of arbitrary code executions. This is very much back to basics. Perfect gameplay, perfect randomness, type aiming with my gameplay. Entering our first post-game minigame here is Gem Hop. Gem Hop is a constant frustration. For starters, the game does not tell you you can beat the minigame. There is an end to this. It will end after collecting 100 gems. All of the gems are only 1 value gem, and after jumping off a platform, the platform will fall into the pit. There is no guarantee that this level is possible, as all of the platforms spawn randomly. So being able to do this in a relatively perfect manner is extremely therapeutic. This is a horrible way to end a regular speedrun, given that to any run can just die to this level, and you can lose upwards of 10-15 minutes without anything really being your fault. I'm not really selling this game, am I? So going through, collecting these last few gems here. We entered with 6, so we'll be finishing them when it gets to the number 106. However, this is where I discovered a minor blunder I'd made. With the idea being to collect 120 cards, it would be pretty good for me to double check that I'd actually collected every card. It turns out I missed one back in the second world, so we're going to make a slight detour on our way there to pick that up as well. So I've got an immediate improvement for next time I do one of these. Unfortunately, I only discovered that about 2 weeks ago, and did not have the time to fully redo it, as it would have influenced all of the RNG for the rest of the run. But I was able to quickly change something at the ending. Of course, this minigame gets significantly harder, because if it wasn't already hard enough being sometimes impossible, the platforms are also half size now. As we go through and collect these handful of gems, making some extremely risky movement, taking full advantage of Spyro being able to hover every other frame to effectively suspend Spyro in the air. Coming up to the last 7 or so gems here. And we'll see the minigame automatically complete itself. Just wait for the last gem to spawn there, and there we go, out of Gem Hop. The last few levels are all relatively safe. This is Sheep Hop, or Sheep Chase. It is just yet another auto-scroller. We run away from some sheep. Luckily, none of these minigames are particularly long. All they are an additional reward, giving us 1 card per minigame. So they, of course, are required to obtain all the cards, but normally you'd never see this in a regular playthrough. These minigames are also hidden. They don't appear until after you've unlocked them. And not many people continue to play this game after they have beat this game. Additionally, these levels don't appear until you've completed Gem Hop, and it's not obvious that Gem Hop can be completed. Each of the worlds contains one of these sheep levels, so we're going through collecting each one as we go through. This is Sheep Shakedown, relatively traditional platforming level, where the aim is to defeat 30 sheep. There's a few we can knock down from trees, a few coming out of pipes. Basically, we are trying to hit as many all at once to reduce the lag. And the bunches with waiting for the spawners to spawn a few sheep before we go over and burn the sheep.
What exactly have the sheep done to us?
That's a good question. They say no sheep were harmed in the making of the game, but I'm not sure I trust them. There we are, there's our final part. Last gem there for our final half of an overworld gem completion. Back to Arctic Cliffs. Our final sheep minigame here is near the bottom. Got a hovering there so we can make the platforming cycle. Performing task sheep hop. You can flutter in this level, however, you don't need to if you just don't be bad skill issue. So you can just keep bouncing on this sheep without ever pressing any buttons.
Man, Spyro really doesn't like sheep, does he?
Oh, he really does not. So here was where I realized the blunder. Normally you would just go back into the first level. However, I need to make a small detour here. To pick up the single remaining card. There we are, I've got the basket. And coming up to the very last level here, which is Death from Behind. So I'll just wrap this up here. So thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you UKSG for having me and giving me a chance to showcase this run. It's been a lot of fun working over the past few months. There's a lot of improvements I want to be making to this, especially as our research into reverse engineering goes. This is a really fun run, and I've been really happy to be part of the community as it's evolved over the years. And I can't wait to see where it goes in the future. Time will be coming up in a few seconds, and time. All right, thank you for having me. It's been great being able to showcase this. Look forward to TAS on, I believe it is Saturday night, I think, for it showcasing various Mega Man runs. That will be super entertaining, and you'll need to look forward to that. So that's everything for me. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you very much, CDRomatron, for this awesome support, demonstration of the TAS of Spyro Fusion. Up next, we have, oh boy, it is Howlin' Matt Mike and Tiny Tim, two people with very clear opinions on retro gaming consoles. We'll see you again after the break.